Hey, what's up, guys? It's Apollo Uchiha here, back with another part of What If Naruto Was Struck by Lightning. And if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of the channel. And without further ado, let's continue our story. It has been 7 long years since we have last seen our hero. He had matured greatly in mind and body. Naruto now stood at an impressive 5'8". His muscles were very defined. His entire outfit had changed completely. He wore skin-tight pants that were completely white. He now had a hood that was also completely white. The pants and jackets were gifted from the Panther clan. Flashback. Today was a week after Naruto's 10th birthday. He spent his birthday with Hiruzen, Asuma, and Anko. It was a lot of fun and he had received great gifts. But the gifts he was really looking forward to was the Panther clan's gift. Mayonaka had told him a few weeks ago that they were preparing his gift. Now Naruto stood in the clearing where he and Mayonaka usually trained. He was waiting for the specific time to come when he could summon Mayonaka. Naruto watched immediately as the sun slowly set. He sighed in relief as the sun got into a certain point. Naruto bit his finger and started to go through the hand signs for the summoning jutsu. He slammed his hands on the ground and a seal array spread on the clearing floor. A puff of smoke appeared and Naruto waited patiently for the smoke to clear. Mayonaka came out of the smoke with a scroll in her mouth. She walked slowly up to Naruto and dropped it at his feet. "This is a gift from the entire Panther clan. Each one of us thanks you for being our summoner," Mayonaka said. Naruto grinned and then picked up the scroll. He channeled his chakra through the scroll and a small puff of smoke surrounded his hands. When the smoke cleared, Naruto realized that he had two new things in his hands. It was a completely white jacket with completely white Anbu pants. "Try them on," Mayonaka said. Naruto grinned and then tried on the new clothes. He found that they were perfectly fit to him. But he looked up with confusion at Mayonaka. "Well, while I do appreciate the clothes, these aren't really made for stealth," Naruto said. Mayonaka smirked when he heard Naruto's say this. "Channel chakra into the clothes," Mayonaka said. Naruto looked confusion at the request but did it anyway. He started to channel his chakra into the clothes and looked at them. He watched in amazement as the clothes changed color before his eyes. He noticed that they were perfectly matching up with the forest surrounding him. These clothes were outfitted with seals that allowed them to change colors. "This is perfect for any stealth mission," Mayonaka said. Naruto grinned at his gift. That was amazing. He knew that this would be a great asset for his stealth. "Thank you, Mayonaka. Tell the rest of the clan that I really appreciate the gift," Naruto said. Mayonaka nodded and then disappeared. End of the flashback. Naruto had forgone showing anyone his new clothes. He didn't find it necessary, so just decided to keep it to himself. Several other things had changed about Naruto too. Naruto now had almost completely mastery of his electromagnetic field. He could extend it over to 200 yards and retracted it to the 5 inches for himself. His sword skills weren't his strong suit, but he was still skilled enough with it. With no base style, he relied purely on his instinct. It had worked for him since he got the sword, so he found it necessary to change it. But Naruto's greatest strength were its speed, stealth, and his lightning jutsus. Due to the constant speed and stealth training Mayonaka had forced him through, his speed and stealth were off the charts. He was able to sneak into the Hokage tower several times wearing bright orange and not be seen. He was able to kill someone quick enough that they would notice till it was too late. His lightning jutsus had come a long way from him not knowing how to control him. He was able to shape the lightning into any shape or form. If he channeled chakra into his hand and touched someone, he could fill them with enough excessive electricity that he could knock them unconscious or kill them. It was basically a built-in taser. Overall, Naruto was at a solid Chunin level by now. Due to his lack of strength, he wasn't able to reach Jonin yet. Today was a very important day in Konoha. Today was the day that Konoha would welcome in a new generation of ninja. This generation was made out of to be the best in several generations. They were mostly made up of the future clan heads of Konoha. It was also the same class Naruto was in. While today was a very important day for Konoha, it was not a very important day for Naruto. Naruto was not really looking forward to it from his first couple of months as a genin. After hearing about the assigned missions to the fresh genin, Naruto was definitely not looking forward to them. Naruto was in his room making sure he was completely ready for the test. He had his special kunai on the inside of his jacket. His sword hung loosely against his back. Naruto, satisfied with his equipment check, put a senbon into his mouth. He slowly walked out of his room and walked out of the house. Once he got outside, he threw his hood and started to channel chakra into them. Slowly the body seemed to disappear. After making sure he was completely invisible, he made it to the academy. At the academy, Naruto quickly sunk into the academy and into his assigned room. He took a seat in his usual desk and waited. It was an hour early, so he had plenty of time to wake. The first person to enter the room after Naruto was Iruka. Naruto's relation with Iruka had not improved at all. Actually, it had probably gotten worse. As Naruto grew older, he became more rebellious and began to strike out towards Iruka's biased behavior. "Why don't you just kill him now? It would save us a lot of trouble," Kyuubi said. One thing that hasn't changed about Naruto was his relationship with Kyuubi. Kyuubi still tried to influence him and suggest him with killing, raping, and pillaging. Kyuubi still manipulated his dreams to show horror, but Naruto managed to survive through all of it. Ruka went straight to his desk and took out his packet. Naruto, being the curious person he was, quietly walked over to the desk and looked over Iruka's shoulder. His eyes widened when he noticed that the papers Iruka had taken out was the test Naruto was scheduled to take. Naruto grinned at his luck as Iruka took the test himself. After 20 minutes, Iruka finished the test, but put it back into the desk. Sorry about that. And put it back into his desk and walked out of the room. After making sure that Iruka was gone, Naruto quietly took the test out of the desk and copied down the answers on a separate piece of paper. When he finished, he put the test back into the desk and sat back into his seat with a constant and content smile. Now he was waiting for his classmates. The first one of his classmates to enter the room was Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke was a very popular boy in the academy. He stood 5'5", and his build was that of a swimmer. He had black hair and eyes. Ever since Sasuke's older brother Itachi slaughtered his whole clan, Sasuke had acted very emo-ish. He completely ignored any human interaction from anyone. He decided his time to training to avenge his clan, quote-unquote. Naruto personally found it pathetic that he would ignore everyone, all for some petty revenge that was impossible for him to do at his level. The next two people to enter were Shikamaru, Nara, and Choji Akamichi. Now, at first glance, Shikamaru seemed like a lazy asshole, but Naruto quickly learned that he was actually a genius on an incredible level, but he was still a lazy asshole. Choji was a plump boy that always seemed to have a bag of chips in his hand. He always hung out with Shikamaru and seemed very loyal. Well, while not the smartest, he made up with it with his strength and stamina. The next person to enter the room was Hinata Yuga. Now, Hinata was always a mystery to Naruto. When he first met her all those years ago, she was shy and nervous all the time, but when the third year of the academy started, she had completely changed. She was cold and rigid, like the rest of her clan. She treated everyone as if they were lower than her. It honestly made Naruto confused. The next person to enter was Kiba Inuzuka. Kiba was a member of the Inuzuka clan. Along with his dog Akamaru, they were a dangerous team. Kiba was very proud, arrogant, and prideful. This caused him to act brash and sometimes, or most of the times, very stupid. The next person to enter was Shino Aburame. Shino was a very quiet boy. Most of the class was slightly disgusted with the boy's special condition, but Naruto had no problem with the boy. The last two people to enter were Sakura Haruno and Ino Yamanaka. Sakura was a peptide girl with her fair skin. She had pink hair and an abnormal forehead. Ino was also a peptide girl with fair skin, but she had blonde hair, blue eyes, and a normal forehead. The two girls were the most pathetic in the class. They both were deeply in love with the Uchiha. This caused them to ignore their training and focus on Sasuke. Also, due to Ino's parents' opinion against him, Ino would go out of her way to try and make Naruto's academy experience as bad as possible. She would constantly try to make fun of him, agitate him, and sabotage him. Sakura, being Ino's best friend, joined and started to annoy him. Luckily for them, Mayonaka had forced patience and self-control into Naruto said, "I still say you should kill them all." Kyuubi said. The rest of the class shuffled into the room. Ino and Sakura immediately charged into the room and sat near Sasuke. They tried their best to gain his attention, but Sasuke remained emotionless. Ruka walked into the room and with a bored smile on his face. This was his greatest class that he has ever taught. A lot of them had a potential in them at amazing level, and all they needed was a joining instructor to bring out their potential. Ruka walked to the class front and cleared his throat, try and catch his students' attention. Unfortunately for him, his students were paying no attention to him. Ruka cleared his throat once more, but louder. But still, his students ignored him. A tick mark appeared on his forehead. "Shut the hell up, you lazy excuse of ninjas!" Iruka yelled. All of the students were quiet at Iruka's voice. Iruka grinned when he noticed that he had their undivided attention. "Okay, class, we will take roll and then we shall take the exams. I hope that you all prepared well for this," Ruka said. Ruka then began to take roll. He got all the way down to the list and read Naruto's name. He paused for several seconds before saying him. "Naruto Uzumaki," Ruka said. Silence greeted Iruka and the class. The class looked to where Naruto usually sat and saw that it was empty. Has anyone seen Naruto? Iruka asked with a hidden mirth. He knew that if Naruto misses this exam, he couldn't be a ninja, at least for another year. Nobody in the class has seen Naruto actually. Iruka's face actually broke into a small grin. Well, I guess we just have to move. Iruka had to stop in the middle of an explanation when he face erupted him here, a voice said. The class paused, plus Iruka all looked towards the voice. They all looked at Naruto's usual seat. The air surrounded the seat started to ripple and distort until it revealed Naruto sitting in the seat. He had his white jacket and white arm boots. The whole class looked in shock at Naruto's sudden appearance. The fuck just happened? He asked. Nobody had the answer for that. Naruto sat in his chair with a smug smirk on his face. Iruka cursed under his breath. Now he had to allow him to take the test. Yes, Naruto. Thank you for gracing us with your presence, Iruka said. The class giggled at Iruka's sarcasm. Naruto ignored the jab by his teacher and laid his head down. Iruka continued the role in the middle of it. The co-teacher, Mizuki, appeared with an apologetic look on his face. Iruka gave him a joking look of anger before finishing the role. He then reached out into his desk and took out several tests. He slowly walked through the room, hanging them out. When he got to Naruto, he gave him a hard look, which Naruto returned. He slowly handed him the test before walking away. Iruka finished passing out the test in front of everyone. You will have an hour to complete this test. We will stop at 10. Exactly. You begin now. Iruka said. The class all collectively shot their heads down, started to make the test. Naruto smirked and then started to take the test. He breezed through the test, he already having the answer memorized for earlier. After 10 minutes, Naruto turned his test over and leaned back in his chair. Iruka and Mizuki looked in shock that Naruto finished that early, but then they theorized that he just probably wrote random answers. Naruto had to wait 55 minutes more for his other classmates to finish. The first one to finish was none other than Sakura, who finished 30 minutes into the test. Sasuke, Ino, and Hinata seemed to finish after her. Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba were some of the latest ones to finish. Once 10 came around, Iruka immediately stopped the test. He collected each of the tests. Mizuki led the children outside. They arrived at a massive target range. Scattered across the fields were targets of different sizes and shapes. Iruka met Mizuki and the students outside in the range. He had a clipboard in his hands and a bucket of shurikens, kunais, and senbos. This is accuracy part of the test. Ninja tools are a very important tool of ninja. They could save your life when you run out of chakra. There are 3 targets in the field. The closest one is 1 point, the middle is 5, and the furthest is 10. You have 50 throws. Now Shino, you are the first, Iruka said. Shino stepped up the drawn line and started to throw the ninja tools. After a minute of throwing, he finished. Shino, that was very impressive, 401. Iruka said. Mizuki went and took the tools out of the target. The rotation continued until it was Naruto. Naruto stepped up to the drawn line and reached into his jacket. A small puff of smoke floated out of his jacket. Naruto pulled his hand out of his jacket, revealing it was to be filled with throwing weapons. Kunai, shuriken, and senbons could be seen blurring through the air and implanted themselves into the target. Naruto watched in amazement as each weapon seemed to be a kill shot. After several seconds of throwing, Naruto stopped. Iruka looked at the target and saw that it was riddled with weapons. He quickly counted the weapons and smirked. That's only 4. A white blur came flying past Iruka and buried itself between eyes of the dummies. 9. Iruka finished. Naruto stood with a smirk on as a senbon made contact with the dummy. Iruka and Mizuki gasped when they noticed that Naruto had gotten a perfect score. Wow, great job Naruto, 500. Iruka said in still shock. Show off, Kyuubi said. Mizuki was about to remove the weapons but stopped when he saw them shaking into the targets. The weapons sent flying off to the target and towards Naruto. Naruto opened his jacket and the weapons seemed to fly into them. Naruto closed his jacket when the weapons were all in his jacket. Naruto looked back up and noticed that his senbons were still between his eyes of the target. He increased his chakra slightly and then senbons went flying out of the target. The senbons went straight into Naruto's mouth. When Naruto caught it with his teeth, Naruto grinned and then walked back to the classmates. They all were in shock that the dead last had gotten a perfect score and used some strange techniques to retrieve his weapon. Iruka continued his test nonetheless, still in shock that Naruto had gotten a perfect score and his weird technique. The closest person to Naruto was Sasuke Uchiha, who only got 420 marks. Sasuke seemed very annoyed at the fact. After all finished their test, Iruka led them to the small arena. He waited for Mizuki to arrive before explaining the test. Next part, this will be a Taijutsu test. You will be paired with random students, and you two will be fighting Mizuki. and I will be watching your match to see how you are doing. Remember, the objective is to do well and not to win. If you are knocked out of the ring, you are eliminated from the match, Iruka said, and stopped to make sure the students understood. Now, due to the odd amount of students, there will be a match of 3. I will need 3 people to volunteer for a match, Iruka said. Immediately, Hinata, Sasuke, and shot up. After the nobody seemed volunteer, Naruto sighed and raised his hand. Iruka saw this and then wrote something down on a clipboard. Okay, so Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata will be in the 3-way match. Sasuke and Hinata looked at Naruto with an arrogant look. Naruto calmly walked away and sat against a tree. He pulled his hood up and then disappeared from the class side. Shino versus Choji, Iruka said. Shino and Choji walked into the ring and to begin their match. Now, seeing that most of the girls were creeped out by Shino and Choji was fat. None of the girls were paying attention. Most of the girls went straight for Sasuke to try and garner his attention. But Hinata was not one of those girls. Ever since she started the academy, she had been disgusted by the behavior of the fellow classmate girls. They would spend hours fawning over the Uchiha while neglecting their training. This caused them to be weak and stupid. Now, Hinata couldn't completely make fun of these girls because she was once one of the girls. But instead of Sasuke, it was Naruto. She would spend hours watching him. Without him knowing, he was the only thing that was allowing her to continue living. Of course, things weren't that simple. Flashback. Today was the last day of the second year of the academy. They would take a series of tests to test their Taijutsu, Ninjutsu, weapon skills, and knowledge. Hinata had taken the entire test and was fairly confident she did well. Hinata walked out of the academy and was about to start following Naruto, but as soon as she took a step towards him, a hand landed on her shoulder. She looked back and saw that it was her cousin Neji. Hinata-sama. Hiyashi-sama demands your presence immediately, Neji said. Hinata didn't get even a chance to reply before she was sanctioned into the office of her father. Neji roughly pushed her towards her door, which Hinata went barreling through. Once she caught her balance, she looked up to see her father staring at her with a harsh look. Hinata, do you know why I have called you here today? Hinata nervously shook her head to no. She really had no idea what she was doing. Hiyashi stood up and slowly walked around his desk. He even footsteps seemed to crack with the floorboard. Hiyashi stood in front of Hinata, staring down on her once more. Hinata felt like she wanted to cry, and she slowly sunk into her jacket. I had your teachers immediately send me your test results today. You are rank 6 out of the class, Hiyashi said. Hinata paled when she heard this. Her father had promised her that if she got anything lower than second, that there would be bad consequences. Hinata, I am greatly disappointed in you. I have trained and tried to train you personally in the hope that you would improve. Unfortunately and obviously, you have failed greatly. So I have but to allow the council to take over your training, Hiyashi said. Hinata paled over even more. If that was possible, she knew that council trainings were leagues harder than her father. But Hinata tried to stutter out. That's enough, Hinata. I don't want your excuses. You are to report to the council, Hiyashi said. Hinata nodded as tears started to stream down her face. She slowly got up and walked to the door. He spent many times opened it and was about to close the door. Hiyashi spoke. I just want to let you know that I am very disappointed in you. Your mother expected great things in you. I have to say that she was completely wrong, Hiyashi said. Hinata slowly closed the door. This was the statement that changed her completely. From this summer vacation, Hinata was placed under the tutelage of the council training. She basically consisted of her battling high-level Yugas attempting to beat them. The council was surprised, however, when Hinata actually defeated several of the Genin-level Yugas. They also noted that she had a massive shift of behavior. She had grown cold to everyone, even to her little sister. After training for 6 months, Hinata had gone through a huge shift. She was arrogant, prideful, and strong. One thing that had also diminished was her obsession with Naruto. The council had pounded into her that he was a scum and was below her. Unfortunately, it got to her, and her obsession had almost been destroyed. End of the flashback. While Hinata was reminiscing, Iruka had breezed through the rest of the matches. It was now hers, Sasuke's, and Naruto's turn. Hinata and Sakura and Sasuke and Naruto all walked into the ring and stood in opposite corners. Iruka jumped into the middle of the ring. Are you ready? Iruka said, kill them, tear them limb to limb, feast upon their blood, Kyuubi said. Naruto had to admit it. It was a tempting offer, but decided to ignore the suggestion. Hinata and Sasuke nodded. Iruka looked and saw Naruto. He was yawning. Iruka sighed and decided to take it as a yes. Begin, Iruka yelled. while jumping out of the ring. All three fighters stood as the match started. Hinata and Sasuke had immediately slid into a defensive stand. Naruto stood still with his hands in his pockets. Naruto sighed when he saw that neither of one of the opponents were going to move. He should have guessed, since both of their styles relied on their reaction. "I'm going to make this nice and quick, since I have things to do," Naruto said. The two students watched as Naruto slowly crouched down on the floor. They let out a small gasp when he disappeared from the sight. Seconds later, they both looked around nervously and trying to find Naruto. Sasuke keeled over, blood coming out of his mouth. Naruto flashed into his side with a fist buried in Sasuke's stomach. Naruto smirked and his hand shot up at Sasuke's neck. Naruto popped up slightly, shifting his center of gravity and threw Sasuke towards Naruto. Naruto's eyes were in shock as Sasuke's limp body came flying towards her. She quickly sidestepped the body and watched his crash into the wall. Hinata had to wince as she saw blood starting to leak out of her mouth. Hinata turned around to face Naruto but was met with a surprise. Naruto was flying through the air with his foot outstretched. Naruto's foot slammed into Hinata's face and sent her flying into the wall right along with Sasuke. Naruto gently landed on the ground. The whole entire class stood in shock. Naruto had managed to defeat Hinata and Sasuke under 10 seconds. Ruka and Mizuki both looked in shock at Naruto. He had managed to defeat the two of the top students. Mizuki ran over to the down students to see if they were alright. He noticed that both of them were unconscious. Sasuke had a broken rib and a mild concussion. Hinata had a dislocated jaw and bruising all around her face. "I'll take them to the medical center," Mizuki said while slinging them to the shoulder. Ruka nodded, and still in shock, Mizuki disappeared in a slight blur of speed. Ruka finished the test and rest of the matches, but everyone was still in shock with the last match. Sasuke's Fangirl tried their best to sneak away from the matches and catch up on Sasuke, but Ruka wholly stopped them each time. When Sakura and Ino finished their matches, they immediately paired up with each other and marched over towards Naruto. Naruto had his hood on, so he was completely ignoring the girls. The girls stood in front of him, immediately tapping their feet. A loud snore erupted from Naruto, showing that he had been asleep the entire time. "Naruto baka, wake the hell up!" Sakura yelled, reaching for Naruto. Sakura's hand came within inches, touching Naruto, before he shot up and grabbed her by her wrist. Sakura felt a high amount of voltage coming and surging from her body. Naruto remained holding Sakura's wrist for several seconds before letting go. Sakura fell to the ground, twitching, slightly smoking. Naruto slid his hood off and stretched. He let out another loud yawn before looking down at Sakura. He made an agitated look before looking up at Ino with a bored look on his face. "Do you want something, Ino?" Naruto said. Ino contemplated just taking Sakura and leaving. Unfortunately, her ego and stupidity caused her to say, "Actually, I do. Why the hell did you do that to Sasuke-kun? You could have killed him," Ino yelled. "I fought him. It was a Taijutsu match. It was his fault for getting his ass beat. If you want to yell at someone, yell at him. Sometimes I wonder who is more sadistic, me or you," Kyuubi said. Ino was about to reply but heard Sakura moaning in pain. Fortunately for Sakura, Ino cared more about her friend's safety than chewing out the dead last. Ino huffed angrily before dragging Sakura away. Ruka led the rest of the class into the building. Naruto saw that Hinata and Sasuke were both seated. Naruto could see Sasuke's midsection was wrapped in bandages. Also, several wrappings around his neck. Hinata's whole right side of the face was covered with bandages. They looked a bit dazed. When their eyes laid on Naruto, anger filled them quickly. Naruto smirked at the two and started to taunt them. He would raise his middle finger at them and flex his bicep, and it was honestly driving Sasuke and Hinata insane. The students filed into their seats as the Ruka walked to the center of the classroom. Once the class was settled into the seats, the Ruka began to explain the last part of the test. "This will be the last part and most important part of the test. This is the ninjutsu part. It requires you to do the substitution Henji Kon technique. You will all go alphabetically and one at a time. First is Shino," Ruka said before leading Shino out of the hallway. For 30 minutes, Naruto watched as his fellow students walked in, out of the classroom. Some walked with pride, with headbands wrapped around different parts of the body. Some of them walked into the room with a defeated look on their faces. Their heart hung low. After 30 minutes, it was Naruto. He went out of the hallway and immediately entered the adjunct room. He saw Mizuki and Ruka sitting behind the desk. The desk had forehead plates on them. "Okay, Naruto, let's just make this simple. I don't like you, and you don't like me. Let's not play around. Let's just do the jutsus so we can remove each other from our sides," Ruka said with an irritated tone in his voice. Naruto grunted before erupting in a smoke. When the smoke the two touches froze in fear as Naruto hinged into. Naruto had turned into a pure white panther. The panther slowly walked towards the teacher with a menacing look in its face. Ruka and Mizuki were about to attack it before went to smoke and turned back to Naruto. "Naruto, I said no jokes. I should have failed you for disappointing my order, but you can't. I did what you asked for," Naruto said. Ruka growled because he knew that it is true. "What was the criteria anyway?" Mizuki asked curiously. "This is none of your business." Naruto asked. Mizuki growled at Naruto's vague answers. He then smirked when he came up with an idea. I'm sure that the Hokage would know. Actually, the Hokage does not know of these creatures. Now, I would appreciate if you or we could continue this test and not with my interrogation, Naruto said. Mizuki was about to reply, but a hand from Iruka stopped him. Mizuki growled and then settled back into the chair. Iruka waved his hand angrily, motioning Naruto to continue with this test. Naruto nodded and made a hand sign. A cloud of smoke. The chair was now in his place. Naruto reappeared back in his front of the 2 seconds later. Now all Naruto had to do was make a clone. The teacher watched as Naruto seemed to take several deep breaths. Slowly, sparks started to dance off Naruto's body. A more time passed, and sparks became more and more numerous. The teachers took over cover as the sparks came rocketing towards them. They heard a loud poof and looked back over the table. Naruto stood in the same place, but now he had a clone standing next to him. The teachers could see that the clone was a perfect copy of Naruto. They both sighed at the fact that stood before them. Naruto, you pass, Iruka forced out. Naruto grinned and picked up his forehead protector. He put his in his pocket and started to head up for the door. He stopped as his hand reached for the handle. You two are pathetic pieces of trash that I would love to kill at the moment. Fortunately for you, I have so much anger against both of you. I doubt that I can make it look like an accident, so I will just have to leave with this fuck. The both of you, Naruto said before slamming the door shut. Naruto walked out of the room and back into the class. All of the students looked at him with expectant eyes. When they saw no sign of headband, most of them smirked. I knew you were failing. Your victory against me was just a mistake, you pitiful, dead, lost. Hinata said arrogantly. Naruto walked up to her and reached into his pocket. Hinata's muscles started to coil, trying to prepare to defend an attack from Naruto. Instead, Naruto's hand flew out and had one enclosed in it. He waved it in front of Hinata's face before sitting in his usual seat. Maybe I should get you some glasses because it's obvious you can't see. And here I thought the Yuga had the all-seeing eyes. You just proved that wrong. Naruto said, You told her, Kyuubi said. Hinata growled once again at being looked at like an idiot. It seemed that Naruto was doing that to her a lot recently. The remaining students took the seat and exams. When everyone was finished, Ruka and Mizuki walked out and with proud face. I'm proud and happy to announce that 80% of you have passed. I am proud to see that progress of all of you have made the years. Ruka said with a wide grin on his face. Mizuki stepped up and started to talk to the class. Now for you who passed, your team will be announced at 9 a.m. tomorrow Friday. Mizuki said, Now all of you are dismissed for the last time. Enjoy your ninja careers, Ruka said. The passengers all charged out of the room, cheering while Naruto disappeared in the sunshine. Naruto appeared sitting in a booth. He looked across from the booth to see Anko sleeping with her head down. Naruto smirked and then slowly leaned into her ear. Wake up, Anko-chan. Your Naruto-kun is here to pleasure you, Naruto said in a low voice and whispery voice. Anko shot up and a massive blush was on her face with a slight nose blood. She looked up and saw Naruto smirking at her. She growled when he realized what Naruto had done. You're an asshole. You woke me up from a really good dream, you know. Anko said with a growl. Did the dream have me in it? Naruto said. Anko leaned closer with a smirk on her face. And what if it did? Anko said. Naruto leaned slowly closer to Anko. I think I will have to make your dreams reality, Naruto said with a seductive tone in his voice. Anko backed away, blushing madly. Naruto backed away with a wild smirk on his face. He then dug into his pocket and slammed his headband protector into the table. Anko looked at the headband in shock. Congratulations, Kaki. You finally had ninja, Anko yelled while wrapping Naruto in a gigantic hug. Naruto blushed at the feeling of his face against Anko's breast. After several seconds, Anko let go of Naruto and sat back into her seat. So, do you know who is on your team? Anko said while eating a piece of dango that mysteriously disappeared in her hand. Naruto leaned back into his chair and closed his eyes. Actually, don't know, for sure. I have to wait till Friday to know. So I am free all this week, Naruto said. What do you plan on doing? I know you don't like to sit around and do nothing, Anko said, with her hands on her cheeks. Actually, I planned on spending the week in the Forest of Death. I need to train up more on my survival skills. That I will be able to. So, while I am again in, Naruto said, I think you just wanted to be close to me, Anko said teasingly. And what if I do? Naruto said with a smirk. The two started to stare at each other for a while and then burst out in laughing. The two continued to talk for hours and hours, just enjoying each other's company. By the time they were finishing, they had managed to eat a combined 36 plates of dangos and 37 bowls of ramen. The two said their goodbyes before going their separate ways. Naruto has been on his apartment to get his survival supplies. Hiruzen had managed to get him an apartment several weeks before his birthday. It was isolated from the rest of the village. Just as Naruto opened the door, he felt a presence behind him. He turned and saw that Anbu with a cat mask on it. The Hokage requires your presence, the Anbu said. The Anbu didn't even wait for Naruto's reply before attempting to grab Naruto's shoulder, but to recoil, the Anbu felt when she felt a high amount of voltage run through her system. He stepped back in pain. Naruto looked at him, stunned Anbu with a bored look on his face. I think I can get there myself, Naruto said. Naruto put his hands in a hand sign and concentrated his chakra. A bolt of lightning struck near him. Seconds later, when the dust cloud cleared, which was caused by the lightning, disappeared, Naruto was gone. In Hokage Tower, Hiruzen was once again battling his immortal enemy, paperwork. He had sent Anbu to collect Naruto, but he wanted to get as much of this dreaded paperwork over. Hiruzen heard a loud boom that sounded like thunder. He looked out of the window and saw that it was a clear day. A lightning struck crashed through his roof and impacted against the floor. When the lightning strike stopped, it was revealed to contain Naruto. Hey old man, what do you want? Naruto asked. Hiruzen was about to ask about the lightning but decided against it. He knew it was bringing up some issues that he would have rather not want to deal. Naruto, you may want to sit down for this. Naruto shrugged as Hiruzen's behavior was weird. Hiruzen took a deep breath before speaking. Naruto, you contain the QB. And this is where I'm going to be leaving this part of, guys. I hope you liked this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. And yeah guys, this is Apollo Uchiha and I'm signing out.